You are listening to the Centropic Oracle, an audiobook podcast of science fiction and fantasy short stories that make you think and feel.
The Artifact by J. M. Williams. The old flag slapped hard against rusted red metal, agitated by the wind. Liam was shocked to see the hand-sized bit of cloth still in one piece, let alone in the same place he had tucked it many decades ago, in the side mirror housing of the ancient pickup truck. The red, white, and blue colors of the flag were still radiant, despite all their time spent in the sun. It was unusual. The tour group continued noisily along, following the old path still pressed into the cornfields. But Liam found himself rooted in this memory of his youth. The flag was one of the older styles, lacking the 3 extra stars that were added in the mid-2020s just before the war. The small corner of Iowa was a rare spot in old America, left untouched by the devastation of that war, one that saw North America take the brunt of the world's anger and frustration. Liam ran his hands along the old cherry-red truck, stopping at occasional bits of rust that struck at his memory. He felt as if he recognized the patterns time had etched in the paint. It all seemed too familiar to be true. How could this truck have survived so well while the rest of the country had turned into a wasteland? He opened the driver's door, which resisted his pull and squealed. Inside, the cab was dusty but unmolested. Liam remembered the times he had sat in here, on his uncle's lap, holding the steering wheel as they drove wildly across the empty fields. Liam wasn't sure how he had ended up in New London after the aliens had arrived. The rest of his family had not. The extraterrestrial arrivals had stopped the bombs from dropping, and they had cleaned up much of the mess, but not all. Priorities had to be made, and old America was left to rot. It was all too practical, too efficient. Liam had assumed he would never see the place of his birth again, but then he heard of this oasis. It was becoming a tourist trap. Who would have thought? His uncle's small farm in the Midwest backcountry. Bah. Liam had jumped on the chance to return to his birthplace. When a travel agency advertised a new tour package to authentic rural Iowa, Liam grabbed one of the first tickets. He hadn't expected the location to include the very farm he grew up on. The key was still in the ignition, where his uncle had always left it. A metallic eagle jangled on the key ring. The man had been a patriot until the very end. Liam climbed into the cab, cupping the eagle in his hand. The pewter object was untarnished, unchanged from his memory of it. He could not say the same for the surrounding fields. Without human help, the corn stalks had been overwhelmed by tall grasses and other tall plants. But it was still Iowa. It even smelled like Iowa. The aliens didn't like people visiting places like this, remembering that time before them. But they couldn't restrict people's freedom and claim to be benevolent peacemakers at the same time. They claimed to have made things better in the new cities. Liam didn't know what could be better than having an explosive machine rumbling under your feet. The aliens would never know. It was something his children and grandchildren would never know either. The past was being shut out in favor of progress. On a lark, Liam turned the key. The ignition clicked, but nothing more. He jumped down and lifted up the dust-blanketed hood. The engine was clean. Everything was connected as he remembered. Liam pulled out his pocket computer and scanned the battery. It was dead. With the push of a button, he sent a charge into the old black brick. Then he returned to the cab. He questioned whether he should run off to find his tour group, whose voices had now faded from earshot. His instinct was to follow the rules, an instinct impressed upon him by the new alien government. It pulled him by that dull, ethical sleeve of his soul. But the truck pulled him harder in the opposite direction. He turned the key. There was a whine of old bones struggling to move, a sound Liam could appreciate. Then the beast came alive. He felt tremors beneath his feet. not unlike the tremors caused by carpet bombing. He smelt the burning of gasoline and oil, not unlike the sulphurous stench of gunfire. Despite the incessant nagging of the aliens, many of whom he had worked with, befriended, even loved, Liam could not let go of his past. It was what had shaped him into the man he was today. It was part of him. Liam set his head down on the soft, sofa-like seat and closed his eyes, listening to the growl of the beast. The tour guide would come back for him eventually. For now, he passed the time alone in the cab of the truck until the old beast died for good.
We hope you enjoyed The Artifact by J.M. Williams, read by C.B. Droege. If you'd like to make a donation to the author and narrator of this story, check out the story page link in the description and click the PayPal donate button, or pledge your support to us directly on Patreon. Would you like to submit a story to the Centropic Oracle? A link to our submission guidelines can be found in the description.